Do you see my ugly mug in there for a half second before that little thing popped up? If you did, kudos for paying attention. Hey, man, I'm just happy that the whole Windows and that, what was it, Counter Strike or whatever, that big old took down the airplanes last night. Okay, didn't take down the airplanes. If you're living under a rock, though, all airplanes like landed and all these computers across like everything, doctors, all that got shut down. So I'm just happy to be here and have some sort of connection in the world. Scary moment. Lots going on out there, folks. What I don't know what's going on out there. It seems like everything is going to hell in a handbasket or whatever they say. But that's why we stick together. That's why we're here. We're a big family, and man, we'll make it through all this craziness out there. It's getting crazy. We got Randy in the house. Heath is here. Thank you for stopping by, gentlemen. Appreciate everybody swinging in. Before we get rolling too far along on today's show, I always like to start out by thanking our sponsors. Without them, wouldn't be here, or if we did, it probably wouldn't look as pretty, and it would just me calling in on a telephone or something. They really make this thing pop. So big shout out to Higher Love. We got Jill in the house too. Thanks for swinging by, Jill. Higher Love is located in the UP of Michigan, pretty much all across the border of Wisconsin, thankfully. If you haven't got a chance to check them out, we got a link in the comments here. You can look through their menu. They got deli-style flour, lots of organic grows, and then also we got a promo code for you to get 15% off your first time there. Make sure you take care of that. Don't lose that code. It really helps out the wallet. Also, like to give you a huge shout out to Ignite Dispensary to my right here. They're the folks in Wisconsin that are getting it done as far as quality products in Wisconsin go. And they got a lot of great locations. We're looking at Milwaukee, Spooner, Hayward, Superior, Manitowoc, New Richmond. If you haven't got a chance to check out Ignite, make sure you do. They got some banging drinks. They also got a website. You can check that out as well. You can place an order. Before we get rolling too far into the news and whatnot, got a couple events coming up I wanted to share with you guys. Our next one coming up is going to be Vibing in the Pines. Going to drop the comment here, see if it pops up. All right, Vibing in the Pines. This is a 4-day, 4-day event. You don't have to stay all 4 days, but there are going to be camping sites, lots of music, lots of chill events going on. I will be there. Mrs. Beans will probably be there for a little bit. We're not going to drag her through too much, being that she's getting pretty close to that due date. We're about just over 2 months out. Just proud of her, so I'm not gonna make her stay there too long. Any help is appreciated, hon. I love you. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for putting up with me when we go rummaging. Man, I'm looking for all the clothes before our baby gets here, and I want to find them all at rummage sales, and it's going awesome. We got closets full, folks. It is crazy. Excited. Also, after that, we've got the Great Midwest Hemp Fest. Going to put some comments or some links in the comments here for you guys. That is going to be September 28th and 29th. The March to the Capitol is on the 29th. That's a Sunday. That is our due date. We'll see how that thing shakes out. It'll be interesting. Excited either way. If I can't make it there, it'll be for a great reason, and we'll hold it down. Don says twins. Well, no, but my wife will have 2 kids because she's got me and then Harper. Oh, look at that. The wife. So, yeah, she gave me the heart. Love you, babe. She's awesome. She always helps get things rolling on here. So appreciate that, honey. But yeah, twins. No. Although now we'll just leave it at that. I think we could do 2. I think we have 2 kids, but that's for a later discussion. We'll see how the first one goes. Buddha says, good evening. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Buddha. Mike's in the house. Appreciate that. If you guys can smash that like button and share it to your page if you'd like, that just helps the algorithm. Appreciate everybody stopping out on this Friday. Hopefully you're having a great day. Sipping on my A&W Zero Sugar Root Beer. If you haven't tried that, you're missing out, folks. I'm telling you, it's delicious. It's my little get me through the podcast drink. Otherwise, I talk so much, I get this weird, I don't know. It keeps me going, though. So, but again, weird stuff going on in that cyber world. Lots of stuff shut down last night with the blue screen of death and that. But we're here. We're rocking it. Let's get into it. This should be interesting. Our first article got shared to us here. So we'll dig into, share the screen. The GOP lawmakers discuss marijuana rescheduling impact of another Trump presidency in interviews at the RNC. Be interesting to see what they've got going on there. Thought we'd dive into this. Let's see what the folks were saying at the convention as far as legalization goes. For those of you who don't know, the RNC was in Milwaukee this year. They had a number of obviously Republican congressional lawmakers that are sharing predictions about the prospects of marijuana policy reform. If President Trump were to win another term, the perspectives were mixed, as you would expect. In a series of interviews with Marijuana Moment this week, as delegates formally voted to nominate Trump as the party's pick. And then obviously it looked like it doesn't look like they chose the J.D. Vance for the vice presidency run with Trump here. So let's see what we've got here. It looks like they got a chance to talk with a representative from Florida who is co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. He tempered concerns, it says, that a Trump administration would reverse course on the modest reforms that have been achieved under the Biden administration. Having new blood in office with upcoming congressional elections means there will be more people who don't lock themselves into past prohibitionist positions that they're unwilling to depart from. So it looks like we've got, to underscore that point, the congressman drew a parallel to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and former House Speaker John Boehner. While in office, both leaders have pushed cannabis reform because they had longstanding positions on the issue while serving in elected office. So they're looking at here, since leaving office, Boehner says since advocated for federal marijuana reform in his capacity as a lobbyist. We've got, he was staunchly against it, and now it's like his biggest lobbying client. So, or Boehner, I called him Boehner. It's Boehner. Sorry about that. Which would make sense that the lobbying needs to be done, and we need somebody who can tie into that Republican side. Obviously, that's the tough part. Quick, we got a comment here. 28, Trump's daughter said she could be running. Interesting. Mike says, I find your chat awesome to sit in the garden and listen to, trying new training methods, learning like the best. Legalizing weed was probably the best thing that Michigan could have done for the economy. I believe Wisconsin will be there soon. Hey, that's awesome, Mike. It is crazy, all the different training techniques, different growing mediums, and man, growing is no joke. It is definitely a commitment, and that's awesome that you are up there in Michigan. Much love to our family, not far from us, with the legal green over there in Michigan. So they asked Boehner here if Boehner had any concerns about the possibility that Trump would basically block rescheduling. And he said, I don't think so. No. He said that his argument to Republican colleagues who might raise the issue is that if you supported the states' rights philosophy of the U.S. Supreme Court, which they should, right? That's what they preach. That's the same philosophy that overturned the abortion rights under Roe v. Wade. You should apply the same principle to state cannabis laws. When it comes to, they got a chance to talk with Representative Nancy Mace. She is from South Carolina. She has sponsored legalization legislation, who also asked about the prospect of Trump administration if she would fear that they would roll back rescheduling. Her answer was, I support rescheduling, but I support descheduling. So she would take it even a step further. Leave it up to the states to decide, she said, echoing what you hear a lot out there. But the interviews with Mass and Mace did not necessarily reflect the consensus, as other GOP lawmakers made clear they did not personally back reform, whether that was rescheduling or otherwise, and didn't want to speak to the party nominee's position. They did get a chance here for House Majority Leader Steve Scalise from Louisiana. For his part, he declined to address cannabis altogether when asked about it, instead stating the Republicans are looking at an agenda focused on getting the economy moving again. I think sales of cannabis would definitely get that economy moving. But he pointed out convention themes such as lowering inflation and tackling border security, for example. Unfortunately, that sounds like a stonewall. They checked in with the representative from Tennessee, Chuck Fleshman, who is among 25 GOP members who recently urged the DEA to keep marijuana in Schedule 1. He said the former president is going to have to sit back and look at every executive order that this administration has put in, including rescheduling. I can't speak to what he's going to do. I'm a physical and social conservative, So I've seen marijuana and other drugs ruin families. I'm going to defer all those decisions to Trump. The only reason they ruin families is because of it being deemed illegal for, well, not the only reason, but I would say 95% of it, that's where it's coming from. It's crazy that these people talk like this, in my opinion. There's plans to oppose the Justice Department's marijuana rescheduling proposal. I think ultimately right now it's with the states, but the federal government, I think, is probably ultimately going to leave it where it's at. Now, get that done. Work together, get this done. Then they're talking about there was a few colleagues' perspectives that were talking about the loophole that was created by the 2018 Farm Bill that needs to be stopped. He went on to say, this is a gentleman from Arkansas, that while there may be certain conditions that medical marijuana can help with, he feels the scope of its treatment potential has been inflated. And the senator continues to believe that marijuana is a gateway drug. So this is another guy we need to educate. He's saying, quoted as saying, most of the states with medical marijuana, it's the Wild West. I think it's really hard now. I think the states probably need to get it sorted out. On the other hand, I'm not for any federal expansion. So this guy is not our ally by any means. Rather, he looks at it as a parent with great concern about where it leads. This is far stronger than anything that people were doing back in the 60s. I certainly don't want to see this encouraged. And, I didn't see anything in the GOP platform that would make me go otherwise. Jill says, as soon as the governments get their heads out of their butt and legalize it across the nation, right? Yes, that would be beautiful. I think we can all agree that the people deserve it. It is these gal dang crazy people that are still pushing this old. It's far stronger than anything that people were doing back in the 60s. Okay. There is very little in the cannabis realm that you can take that would affect you like a shot of Everclear would. These takes are terrible. The good news is there's some that are for it, but like Buddha says here, they're all taking money to say no, exactly. And it needs to be figured out. It needs to be exposed. It is sad. It is way overdue. That is frustrating. But that's where, just like we're trying to do here in Wisconsin by gathering the voice of the people in Wisconsin and across the U.S., like we need to just continue working, even states that are legal. We need to all be holding arms, because all it's going to take is, even if they say it's descheduled or it's legal, they're fine tuning to the words, or they could change this, change that. We got to look to our counterparts that are doing a good job now, which obviously, in my opinion, would be, I think Minnesota's on the bubble of blowing up, but just their rollout, their slow and steady approach. Michigan having very, high amount of dispensaries and grows and businesses and fair pricing for the consumers. We need to work together to make sure that these things stay that are good for us, and watch for them to, they're going to try sneaking some stuff in there. Jabbing. What's up, man? Way high, Wisconsin. What's up? What's up? Just as alcohol is man-made and it's legal, but it was once illegal, right? Exactly. So we'll see how things shake out. Just wanted to see what a couple of the people's takes were down there at the DNC. And sounds pretty mixed, which is what you would expect, unfortunately, from the Republican elected officials. Again, in my opinion, if you're trying to win an election, I wouldn't be playing these games of trying to have these stances that your donors or whoever's paying you to keep, which is, it's not good for you, this, that, the other. Do some homework, okay? If you really feel that way, give me some facts. Show me the data that suggests what you're pitching is true, because it's not. It's not. This was cool to see, the DOOBIE Act. Senators are voting on that. It looks like next week. The headline is, senators will vote on DOOBIE Act to prevent agencies from using past marijuana use to deny employment and security clearances next week. So they've got a Senate committee that is scheduled to vote on a newly filed bill that would limit, essentially what it would be doing is limit the ability of federal agencies to use past marijuana use as a factor when making employment and security clearance decisions. The DOOBIE Act, DOOBIE stands for Dismantling Outdated Obstacles and Barriers to Individual Employment. That is pretty clever. Very clever, actually. Kudos to whoever figured that one out. Buddha says right wing. What about me? Left wing. What about them? Both same bird, right? It's something. It really is. Heather says sorry I'm late. No worries, Heather. Thank you for swinging out on a Friday night. So the measure will receive a markup in the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, which is chaired by the bill sponsor, the senator out of Michigan, Gary Peters, next Wednesday. So this would obviously be the largest legislative attempt to ensure that a person's eligibility for federal workforce is not negatively impacted just because they've consumed cannabis. So it's a pretty big deal that we're at least getting it there. I mean, really hope that this would pass. Again, I think if common sense and education were a part of the rollout of this, it would definitely pass. But again, the politics in the U.S. are really something. You know, I was just kind of scrolling through the feed over the last few days, just looking at both sides and their takes on some stuff. And like, man, this is, you ever watch like a TV show? And I think we all like some drama, right? Like there's good drama shows out there to kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. You know, you got to have a little bit of like, not everybody can be good guys. There's got to be some like, well, I had to feed my family, so I had to, you know, go against this rule that shouldn't be there. Like dramas are pretty cool, right? Like I think anyhow. But like this is just way too much. I don't know what's going on out there. It's just crazy. And I think one day we're going to look back. Hopefully it doesn't continue to like, I feel like the crazy in politics has been on a steady incline for a while. I feel like we've definitely hit like a woof. And hopefully that like comes back down over the rest of our life. Because if it keeps going like this, like over the last month, it's just crazy. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's full of hate. It's frustrating. It's asinine. I hate politics, right? Like it. They all need to sit and smoke one. That's how we get things done. I think in a fair and just world, or a fair and just U.S. Maybe we start small. Y'all got some problems. Let's sit down. Okay, now quit calling each other out. Quit pointing fingers. Smoke this. Give it about 10, 15 minutes, and let's discuss. Like, you guys have to have some kind of middle ground, and you're not always going to get your way. You're not always going to get your way. But look at the people, how you're affecting them, and the hatred you're spewing on them right now, and let's fix that. Let's just chill. Let's work together. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's all I got. Drama everywhere you look. Back to the DOOBIE Act. Got derailed there for a second. I apologize. He is Mr. Peters here, put out a press release saying, my bill will take the common sense step to align federal statutes with existing agency guidance and ensure that talented individuals are not automatically disqualified from service solely due to past marijuana use. This sounds very smart. Again, we know as cannabis consumers, all these you fail one drug test and you could have used it in the last 30 days. It's not saying you're using it now. So especially like truck drivers, that kind of stuff, it is not fair to people that you are just boom, banned, boom, gone, boom, fired, boom. You know, you lose your license. It's crazy. So the fact that it's 2024 and we're just starting to talk about this, like it's always tough because I feel like this should have already been implemented. But again, it's trying to fix a lot of old school thinking and a lot of reefer madness that's still in some folks. So glad to see something like this is coming along and really hope that it gets some push through. The DOOBIE Act is a play on a term used to refer to a marijuana joint, of course. States that covered agencies may not base a suitability determination with respect to an individual solely on the past use of marijuana by the individual. It looks like the White House Office of Personnel Management would also need to adopt that policy. Isn't that crazy? So you can't even you probably can't even be a janitor maybe a janitor, but you definitely can't have like anything related to government and have a past conviction of marijuana use. That's crazy. Heather says once you smoke 1 or 10, you're good, right? Yeah, everyone's got a different tolerance, right? So yeah, it looks like they additionally could not use prior cannabis use to deny a personal identity verification credential, which enables federal workers to access various facilities and information. Could you imagine that? Like you're in the government. I don't know how high up this goes, but you're in the government and you try to get to like a certain folder that you share, like I'm sure it's not like super classified, something. You try to get to something and comes back denied, you use cannabis. Like, bro, it's just crazy. Jill says it sucks a lot of jobs still discriminate against cannabis use, right? And again, if these people would sit down and let people explain to them or show them, um, smoke with them, literally, like enjoy it with them. It's just mind boggling because most of these folks are drinking every night. Their fancy little bars and the shaker, the stir sticks, all that stuff. Like, give me a break. Cannabis any day over alcohol, at least in my book. Again, if you like alcohol, that's cool. I'm not saying alcohol shouldn't be there. It's just craziness to me, though. So hopefully this thing will get moving forward. Get some relief to the people that shouldn't be held against certain jobs, just like a lot of other careers out there. So I think setting a precedent at something like government work, maybe that would really help ease off on, like truck drivers and that kind of stuff as well. So something we'll want to keep an eye on out there. Again, the DOOBIE Act. Let's see how that goes. Keeping an eye on that. All right. So this was a little sad to see, but New Hampshire, the lawmakers and advocates blame each other over marijuana legalization bill's defeat. We've been following this for a little bit. They were trying to push through legalization. Looks like something got snagged here, so let's take a look at it. Heather says, everyone at work knows I smoke and I work at church. That's awesome, Heather. And definitely a couple years ago, I was still pretty quiet about it as far as that goes. But especially over the last couple of years / now, especially as an advocate, like I don't just, hey man, I smoke. But I do like to somehow just work it in. I'd find a way, whether it's family, in-laws, that kind of stuff. I'm an open-minded person, so I'm cool with anyone telling me just about anything. And I'm not telling people they need to smoke or eat edibles or use cannabis, but I just try to enlighten them on what it does for me with ADHD, shutting that thing down for a minute with the brain and them going a million miles an hour with the thoughts. And I think that's really how we do it, Heather, is just slowly letting other people know, hey, don't, regardless of what you read or you heard, here's what it does for me. Not saying you have to use it, but here's what it does for me. And I think that's our way to victory. Jill says, hell yes to cannabis, hell no to alcohol. That's how I am. But again, if people want to consume alcohol responsibly, all for it. And definitely not trying to cancel that culture or anything. But personally, definitely. Cannabis, yes. Alcohol, no. Heather says exactly. Yeah, let's go, Heather. We've got so let's see what's going on in New Hampshire. So we got lawmakers and advocates pointing at each other as to why the bill got defeated. Let's see where the holdup was. Looks like New Hampshire lawmakers and advocates are pointing fingers at one another following the failure of a cannabis legalization bill last week. Some now accuse House Democrats of scuttling the measure in an effort to gain votes in November's election by campaigning on the unresolved and popular issue. That is a concern that I have when it comes to, again, I think we can all agree politics in general are frustrating. And you see a lot of, I try to call it like I see it, both sides of the aisle. I do not have one side that I like more than the other. There's definitely a lot of common sense issues that I don't agree with, how like this is how the party you have, if you vote this, you should think this on that. No, that's not how I am at all. Anyways, one of the concerns I do have is, are Democrats using this as a running or a vote getting thing? Like Biden talking about it now, but he used to always be anti-cannabis before being president. I don't know. It's really frustrating. But it looks like there's some concern of that out here in New Hampshire. But I'm sure even if it was Republican, Democrat flipped, it would be the same thing. So again, I don't play favorites in politics. They're just frustrating to me, and I just try to call it how I see it. You're right, Javin. There is still a stigma attached to cannabis, even in the legal states, right? The Democrat who held last week's House vote to kill the proposal maintains that the bill was simply bad legislation that resulted from a broken process. He believes opponents were right to vote it down and set their sights on something better in a future session. All right, well, then what was the holdup? He was quoted, Representative Sullivan, as saying, "I'm totally pro legalization of cannabis," but he asserted the Senate overplayed its hand when it made fundamental changes to the underlying bill that previously passed the House and expected representatives to sign off on the revisions. Okay, well, let's see what we're talking about here. Excuse me. Anna says, medical benefits are so vast. I suffer from pancreatic divism, a birth defect. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, it is crazy. It seems like every week I hear of somebody else, something new that it helps a certain individual with, or that kind of thing. And Heather says cannabis is a medicine. Politics shouldn't be anywhere near it. Hey, bingo, bingo, we have a winner. So he's saying here, this is the way they're interested in dictating, saying that, excuse me, this is the way it will be or nothing else. And I think they thought that the representatives were just going to go along with it. And, we have a different view. And they were unwilling to consider our separate view. So let's see what we had issues with. The Senate okayed the resulting bill last Thursday, but later in the day, rather than sign off on the bill, which the governor had indicated he'd likely sign, the House voted to table it. Ahead of the vote, Sullivan described the bill, which would have legalized cannabis sales through a government-run system independently owned of franchise stores, as the most intrusive big government marijuana program proposed anywhere in the country. Oh boy, this must have been like the Voss's attempt here in Wisconsin. He said here, I, like many in this room, seriously want to legalize cannabis sales in New Hampshire, but the fact is, despite the recent tweaks, this remains a terrible bill. So the bill would allow 15 stores to open statewide beginning in 2026 through a novel state-run franchise system, provisions that demanded be included in any legalization legislation. Those stores would be privately run. The government would oversee operations, including setting final prices on the products. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Purchasers would incur a 15% franchise fee, effectively a tax, and home cultivation would remain illegal. Okay, this bill sucks. Sorry, but what? Home cultivation would be illegal. 15 state-run stores, 15% franchise fee. It sounds like they're just grabbing weird numbers and stupid ideas, and this is bizarre. Marijuana possession wouldn't become legal until 2026, which is when they were talking about opening these. Once the state's licensed market is up and running, at that point, the adults could legally possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana. I guess that's the first thing we've heard. That was a plus. In the meantime, possession of up to 1 ounce of cannabis would carry a $100 maximum civil fine, an increase from the state's current law that decriminalized up to 3/4 of an ounce, effective immediately. The proposal would limit each municipality to only a single cannabis retail establishment unless it's home to more than 50,000 people. So if you got 49,000 people, you still only get one store? Oh, well, I guess I don't even know if I call it a store. The way they're setting these up, I feel like it's just like a Walgreens. Though only 2 cities in the state, Manchester and Nashua, meet that threshold. Local voters would also need to pre-approve the industry in order for business to open in that jurisdiction. The motion to the table passed 178 to 173, with members of both parties voting in favor. This is not a good bill. They messed this thing up. In the aftermath, Sullivan is now facing attacks from Republicans who supported the negotiated bill, as well as legalization advocates. Both have criticized him and other Democrats who voted against the bill, saying they believe it's an ill-conceived effort to win votes in November and potentially sets back the effort to end prohibition in the live free or die state by at least several years. And this is where I keep going back and forth. Like Wisconsin, do we do this 4 state-run dispensaries? We could probably get it. Well, at some point we could get that changed. But man, it seems so ill-intended that I don't want to put it in place and then get stuck with it. Like, this sounds crazy. I don't know. The House Democrats that campaign on supporting recreational cannabis voted against recreational cannabis so they can continue campaigning on this issue, said Senator Abbas, who led a state commission on legalization last year that failed to accomplish its task of crafting a legalization bill. Clearly, they are not interested in delivering results or being honest with their base. Interesting. Last year, so they've been working on this for a while, going back and forth. This guy says, totally the reason we ended up here. They never really were negotiating in good faith, set up to fail from the beginning. It was never set up to be successful. They had 2 Democratic senators on there. One of them was the only Democratic senator who voted against legalization. Why? Okay, there's some crazy. So the only Democratic senator who voted against legalization voted for this when it first. There's something going on here. Something fishy. Then there's just a lot more of interviews, a lot of finger pointing as they spoke earlier about what we would see. But man, homegrown not being on there, that's crazy. Too much tape on this bill, right? Jill says Melissa Agard's bill is great. That's the one Wisconsin should use. I agree. Peter says 100% agree with Jill. Let's go. Keep making noise, folks. And again, it'll be interesting to see once the senator steps down to county executive, if there's any way to move that as a basically take that bill and roll that out at a county level. You never know. We'll see. We'll see. Crazier things have happened in the world. That's for sure. Oh, wow. There's a lot of finger pointing. This article is like, we're only like a third of the way in, but I think we get the picture. Similar to what we had here. They still got some stuff to figure out when it comes to getting this thing moving. Javin says it's better than what Wisconsin has going on right now. I mean, that is true. Better than nothing. It is true. It's so hard to tell with politics, however you want to word that. Like, I guess my fear is that like the state-run dispensary pill form only. In my head, my initial thought is, yeah, let's do that. It gets the ball rolling. We'll adjust it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just, for some reason, it just feels like these people really have a stronghold in Wisconsin, and it feels like they're setting up an industry that they can control and make it not do really well, and then be like, well, no, why would we? We're not selling anything as it is right now. Why would we grow it from 4? I don't know. It just, again, it's frustrating. Makes no. They're way. I don't even know the word. Trying to make it frustrating, I guess. It's the only thing I can think of. We'll see how that shakes out. All right. And then our last article here. 3 out of 4 patients say medical marijuana reduces their use of opioids and painkillers, Ohio study shows. Ohio study. So a lot of us have heard awesome stories on how cannabis helps a lot of folks. Again, we were talking in a lot of different ways. And something that once I started this journey of advocacy that my eyes were really opened up to were how it helps people who are on opioids and painkillers. Being that we got a study in Ohio, definitely wanted to see what this one's about and share that. New study out of Ohio finds that a large majority of medical patients in the state say cannabis has reduced their use of prescription opioid painkillers as well as other illicit drugs. The survey of approximately 3,500 people, that's a good amount for sure. Hiccups. Which was sent. Hang on, let me take another quick sip of this old A&W here. Delicious. 3,500 people, which was sent to state medical marijuana patients and caregivers through the Ohio Department of Commerce. And it was also shared on social media, found that 77.5% agreed that marijuana reduced their need to use prescription painkillers. That is awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. That's crazy cool. That just makes my heart happy. That's a ton. That's fucking awesome, folks. That's awesome. 77.5% agreed that marijuana reduced their need to use prescription painkillers. That alone should get it legalized. That was 3,500 people. Let's get to 35,000 people. I bet you the number stays pretty consistent. If we care about the people, let's help the people. As for illicit drugs, 26.8% of respondents reported a diminished need to use. Meanwhile, only a small percentage of people disagreed that marijuana reduced their need to use painkillers. Only 1.7. Only 1.7%. That's awesome. That's way awesome. Jill says that's why we should go with Agard's bill. Anna says no pills needed. That's awesome. Heather says that's a huge number. Awesome, right? This makes me happy. Our results and those of previous studies display encouraging results about the potential benefits of using marijuana to reduce the use of painkillers and other illegal drugs, says a new report published as a preprint this month by Ohio State University Law School's Drug Enforcement and Policy Center. That is a long one there. Javin says Wisconsin's best chance is a medical use bill supported by both sides of the aisle first. Even if there are strong restrictions, got to get your foot in the door first. This is true. Similar results were found regarding other illegal drug use. About 30% of daily cannabis users said marijuana reduced their need to use illicit drugs compared to about 17% of less than daily users. Excuse me. Study acknowledges that given the non-random sampling method used, the data may not be representative of all users, but it nevertheless considers the results to point towards certain policy changes aimed at reducing overall harm. Several policy implications should be mentioned in light of these findings. The report says, first, if Ohio probation and parole office include a prohibition of marijuana use for individuals with a history of opioid use, those offices may want to consider weighing the costs and benefits of removing those prohibitions. Yes. For evidence-based support, researchers could encourage probation and parole offices to assist with randomized controlled trials where some individuals are assigned to a marijuana probation and others are not assigned. The success of either assignment could be judged by examining outcomes such as other drug use, technical violations, or new crime commission. Yeah, that's genius. Get the data to these people. Therefore, even if more rigorous studies show that marijuana use reduces the use of prescription painkillers and other illegal drugs, more research will be needed to determine the efficiency of marijuana versus other treatments. Yep, exactly. Justin says, here's my opinion. Beer is no different than marijuana. Yes, I agree with you there, man. However, it is funny that whenever we're talking about cannabis, there's always a limit on what you can have, where alcohol, they have no limits. You can buy a trailer full of Everclear, take it home. They're cool with that. But I get what you're saying, Justin. Totally get that, man. We cannot know for sure why we see a reduction in prescription opioid use and not a morality effect given our data constraints, authors told Marijuana Moment in an email about the report. But a potential explanation could be that either the substitution effect is not large enough or possibly those who are most likely to succumb to opioid misuse are not making the particular substitution. There's a couple other folks in here that made comments similar to those that we've heard of folks that have been on the show and whatnot. And then they touched base here on another study that was published late last year that found that marijuana and opioids were equally infectious with mitigating pain intensity, but cannabis also provided a more holistic relief, such as by improving sleep, focus, and emotional well-being. Yeah, I felt that. That's pretty cool. Going to get this data and send this to some of our naysayers in the Wisconsin Wisconsin politics, which obviously we know there's a few of them. So like to share all this kind of data that we see out there with them. This was a study in Ohio, so not too far from us. And I will encourage them to do this in Wisconsin as well. We just need to keep working together, folks. Again, don't get frustrated. I know there's definitely days, I would say probably at least a couple times a week for a hot second. I'm like, am I doing anything? But we got to keep our eye on the big picture, which is we know this is going to be a marathon. Obviously, being that there's no other organization in Wisconsin out there, that tells us that this isn't going to be easy when it comes to these efforts, but we just need to keep growing the voice. Again, I think we are just about at 35,000 just on Facebook. We just need to keep sticking together, folks. We need to keep making noise. I'll be here 3 days a week, sharing whatever I can to put light on cannabis. I've seen firsthand, just like you guys, what it does for people. I believe in the plant. You guys believe in the plant, and we're going to get this done. It is a treacherous mountain we're set out on here, but together we're going to do this. Even if we got to line up one at a time and push each other up the mountain, we're going to do it because it deserves to be done. And that's what got me into this. I've always had a hard time when somebody tells me something. There'll be times when I'm not going to be kosher with what we have to do or what has to get done or how we have to get something done. But when there's something that makes no sense to me, such as cannabis being being a prohibition of cannabis in the state of Wisconsin, makes no sense to me at all. And I've tried to let it go. I can't let it go. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just. And we're going to get it done. So we're in this thing together, folks. I, again, appreciate everyone who stops out here and joins me. We got an awesome guest coming up on Monday. I'll get the details out on that. And we're going to keep making noise, folks. We ain't going nowhere. Heather says, you are, Bobby. You bring everyone together. Hey, appreciate that, Heather. Appreciate you guys. Javin says, thanks, BB. I believe it can happen eventually in Wisconsin, but it's so slow, right? Yeah, I felt that. Anna, no, thank you. Appreciate you. Peace out, Jill. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And let's get things rolling. Joseph says, less talk. Much more need to get our representatives to flood the Capitol with referendum. Amen. It is going to take all of us. We've got a couple different folks we work with as far as getting letters out there. We got lobbying days coming up when sessions open back up. We got the march at the Capitol coming up September 29th. Let's do this thing. We're going to get it done, folks. So hope everyone has a great night. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you again back at it on Monday. Heather's rolling for me too, Heather. Y'all have a great night. Bobby Beans, we're out of here.